Have you ever felt like you're speaking a different language from everyone around you, even when using the same words? Like there's something fundamentally different about how you process the world, connect with people, and find meaning in everyday experiences. Today we're diving into 8 distinctive traits that might explain why you often feel like you're living in a world designed for someone else entirely. Rare doesn't mean better, it means different. And if you've ever wondered why certain social situations drain you while others energize you, why small talk feels like navigating through mud, or why you notice patterns and connections that seem invisible to others, then these 8 signals might hold some answers for you. Before we jump in, I want to acknowledge something important. This exploration is inspired by the timeless wisdom of Dale Carnegie, a man who understood that authentic connection comes not from erasing who you are, but from learning how to bridge the gap between your inner world and the external demands of society. Carnegie spent his life studying human behavior, not to create carbon copies of social success, but to help people communicate their authentic selves more effectively. The beauty of Carnegie's approach wasn't that he tried to turn introverts into extroverts, or sensitive souls into thick-skinned networkers. Instead, he recognized that the world needs different types of people, different perspectives, and different ways of engaging with life's challenges. His genius lay in showing people how to honor their natural inclinations while still building meaningful connections with others. So as we explore these 8 traits today, remember that we're not talking about becoming someone else. We're talking about understanding yourself more deeply, recognizing your natural patterns, and learning how to work with them rather than against them. This isn't about fixing what's wrong with you. It's about understanding what's unique about you and how to navigate a world that might not always appreciate or understand these differences. The goal here isn't conformity, it's conscious adaptation. It's learning when to stretch beyond your comfort zone and when to honor your authentic needs. It's about finding your tribe while still being able to communicate effectively with those who think differently than you do. With that foundation laid, let's dive into the first sign that you might have an extremely rare personality type. Sign number 1. You experience the world through both high sensitivity and high analysis. Most people lean heavily toward one or the other. They're either highly emotional and intuitive, or they're analytical and logical. But you're both. You feel deeply and think deeply, often simultaneously. This means you pick up on emotional undercurrents in conversations that others miss entirely. You notice when someone's words don't match their body language, when there's tension in a room that nobody's acknowledging, or when a seemingly casual comment carries deeper significance. But unlike someone who's purely sensitive, you don't just feel these things. You analyze them. You try to understand why they're happening, what they mean, and how they fit into larger patterns of human behavior. This combination can be both a superpower and a burden. On the positive side, it makes you an exceptional judge of character, a natural counselor, and someone who can see solutions that require both emotional intelligence and logical reasoning. On the challenging side, it can make simple interactions feel exhausting because you're processing so much information on multiple levels simultaneously. Sign number 2. You have a genuine tolerance for productive solitude. This isn't about being antisocial or avoiding people because you don't like them. This is about recognizing that your best thinking, your most creative work, and your deepest insights often emerge when you're alone with your thoughts. While many people fear silence and constantly seek external stimulation, you've learned to mine the gold that exists in quiet moments. You don't need constant entertainment or social validation to feel fulfilled. In fact, you've probably noticed that too much social stimulation actually diminishes your ability to think clearly and be your best self. This tolerance for solitude often confuses others, especially in a culture that prizes constant connectivity and social engagement. People might interpret your need for alone time as rejection or antisocial behavior, when really it's how you recharge, process experiences, and connect with your own creative energy. Sign number 3. You possess what I call transversal curiosity. While most people develop expertise in 1 or 2 areas, your mind naturally draws connections between seemingly unrelated subjects. You might read a book about ancient philosophy and immediately see applications in modern psychology. You might study patterns in nature and apply those insights to business strategy or artistic expression. This isn't scattered thinking or inability to focus. It's a particular type of intelligence that recognizes that the boundaries between disciplines are often artificial. You see the underlying principles that govern different areas of life, and you're constantly making connections that others miss because they're too focused on staying within conventional categories. This trait can make you incredibly valuable in creative problem-solving situations, but it can also make you feel isolated in academic or professional environments that reward narrow specialization over broad pattern recognition. Sign number 4. You maintain consistent ethical standards regardless of whether anyone is watching. Your moral compass doesn't shift based on social pressure, potential rewards, or fear of consequences. The person you are in private matches the person you present in public, not because you're trying to maintain an image, but because authenticity is simply how you operate. This consistency can sometimes put you at odds with social groups that engage in gossip, small compromises, or situational ethics. You're not judgmental of others, but you also can't easily participate in behaviors that violate your inner sense of integrity, even when everyone else seems comfortable with them. Sign number 5. You have a remarkably low tolerance for subtle manipulation. While some people either don't notice manipulative behavior or choose to overlook it to avoid conflict, you spot it quickly and find it deeply disturbing. This includes everything from passive-aggressive communication to emotional manipulation to subtle forms of social control. This sensitivity to manipulation isn't paranoia. It's pattern recognition. You've developed an acute awareness of when someone is trying to influence you through indirect means rather than honest communication. This can protect you from toxic relationships and exploitative situations, but it can also make you seem overly suspicious or difficult to others who are either less aware of these dynamics or more willing to tolerate them. Sign number 6. Your communication style is both direct and gentle. You've learned to speak truthfully without being cruel, to address difficult topics without creating unnecessary drama, and to set boundaries without being aggressive. This is a rare combination because most people lean toward either brutal honesty or gentle avoidance. Your approach comes from understanding that real kindness sometimes requires difficult conversations, but that the way you deliver hard truths matters as much as the truths themselves. You've probably spent considerable time learning how to communicate in ways that honor both your need for authenticity and your respect for others' feelings. Sign number 7. You consistently prioritize meaning over status. While others chase promotions, social recognition, or material symbols of success, you're more interested in work that feels significant, relationships that are genuine, and experiences that contribute to your personal growth or understanding of life. This doesn't mean you're impractical or unambitious. It means your definition of success is internally driven rather than externally validated. You'd rather do work that matters to you for less money than work that feels meaningless for more money. You'd rather have 3 deep friendships than 30 superficial acquaintances. Sign number 8. You operate according to your own natural rhythms rather than forcing yourself into conventional schedules. You've noticed that your focus, creativity, and energy levels follow patterns that might not match typical 9-to-5 expectations. Maybe you do your best thinking late at night, or perhaps you have natural cycles of intense productivity, followed by periods of rest and reflection. Rather than fighting these patterns, you've learned to work with them. You understand that forcing yourself into productivity when your mind and body are naturally in a rest phase is less effective than honoring your cycles and maximizing your output during your natural peak periods. Now, while these traits can be gifts, they also come with specific risks that we need to address honestly. The first major risk is isolation. When you process the world differently than most people, it's easy to assume that meaningful connection is impossible or that you're destined to be misunderstood. This can lead to withdrawing from social opportunities where you might actually find kindred spirits or where your unique perspective could be valued. The second risk is perfectionism. Because you see so many layers and possibilities in every situation, you might struggle to take action or make decisions. The desire to understand everything fully before moving forward can paralyze you, especially in situations where some ambiguity is inevitable. The third risk is what I call social overfitting. This happens when you become so focused on adapting to others' expectations that you lose touch with your authentic self. In an effort to connect or avoid conflict, You might find yourself constantly adjusting your communication style, interests, or even values to match whatever group you're with. This eventually leads to exhaustion and a loss of personal identity. So how do you care for yourself while honoring these natural tendencies? Let me share 3 practical strategies that can make a significant difference. First, identify and cultivate relationships with 3 anchor people. These are individuals who appreciate your authentic self, who don't require you to perform or adapt to connect with them. These relationships serve as your home base, reminding you of who you are when the rest of the world feels overwhelming or confusing. They don't have to be people who share all your interests or think exactly like you do, but they need to be people who genuinely value your natural way of being in the world. Second, develop what I call bridge projects. These are activities or interests that allow you to connect with others while still honoring your authentic nature. Maybe it's joining a book club focused on topics you genuinely care about, volunteering for causes that align with your values, or finding creative collaborations that let you contribute your unique perspective while working with others. The key is finding contexts where your natural traits are assets rather than obstacles. Third, practice intentional rest. Because you process information so deeply and pick up on so many subtle cues, you need more downtime than the average person to integrate experiences and maintain your emotional equilibrium. This isn't laziness or antisocial behavior. It's maintenance. Schedule regular periods of solitude, not as escape from the world, but as preparation to engage with it more effectively. Remember that your sensitivity to manipulation, your need for meaning, and your natural rhythms aren't flaws to be overcome. They're features of a particular type of consciousness that brings unique value to the world. The goal isn't to become like everyone else. The goal is to understand yourself well enough to navigate the world skillfully while remaining true to your authentic nature. Carnegie understood that effective human relations don't require everyone to become extroverted networkers. They require everyone to understand their natural strengths and find ways to contribute their authentic gifts to the communities they're part of. Your role isn't to fit into a predetermined mold. Your role is to understand your mold well enough to find places where it's valued and needed. Let's recap these 8 signs. The combination of high sensitivity and analytical thinking that lets you feel and understand simultaneously. Your productive relationship with solitude that allows for deep reflection and creativity. The transversal curiosity that helps you connect ideas across different domains. Your consistent ethical standards that don't shift based on circumstances. Your sensitivity to manipulation that protects you from toxic dynamics. Your communication style that balances directness with gentleness. Your priority on meaning over status in life decisions. And your respect for your own natural rhythms rather than forcing artificial productivity cycles. If you recognize yourself in several of these traits, you're part of a small percentage of the population that processes the world in a distinctly different way. This can feel isolating at times, but it also means you have access to perspectives and insights that others might miss. Your job isn't to become more like everyone else. Your job is to understand how to bridge the gap between your inner world and the external world in ways that honor both. The spiritual traditions speak of awakening as a process of seeing reality more clearly, of moving beyond illusion and conditioning to perceive what's actually happening. But here's something they don't often mention. Spiritual awakening can actually kill your motivation for conventional success. When you start seeing through the games people play, when status symbols lose their appeal, when you prioritize authenticity over acceptance, the normal motivational structures of society stop working on you. This isn't a problem to be solved. It's a transition to be navigated. You're moving from external validation to internal compass, from borrowed goals to authentic purpose, from performing for approval to contributing from your genuine nature. The process can be disorienting, but it ultimately leads to a more satisfying and sustainable way of engaging with life. Your rare personality type isn't a burden to be managed or a quirk to be hidden. It's a particular way of being human that brings unique gifts to the world. The challenge is learning how to share those gifts effectively while taking care of your own authentic needs. I'm curious about your experience with these 8 signs. Write in the comments below which ones resonated most strongly with you and how they show up in your daily life. If there are related topics you'd like me to explore in future videos, let me know. And if this perspective helped you understand yourself or someone you care about more clearly, consider sharing it with them. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is helping them realize they're not alone in their particular way of experiencing the world. Understanding your rare personality type isn't about feeling special or different for its own sake. It's about developing the self-awareness and practical skills needed to thrive as your authentic self in a world that often rewards conformity. You have something unique to contribute, and the world needs what you have to offer.